Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Tony.
Good. Good morning. Mark says he's not kind. He's really a kind man. So, hey, first off, it was a big week for Mark and Rosanna. 42 years of marriage. That is a blessing. So, really congratulations to the both of you.
Thank
Um,
you.
Live life to the fullest. And
It's weird. It's like we've had
Thank
like
you.
five lifetimes together. Like,
yeah,
like
a
I
lot, a
married
lot
a
of
Yeah.
teenager.
a lot of people don't make it through the first one or two. So God bless. That is a
Right?
blessing. Hey, and that was a beautiful song. So Rosanna, did you write the words or who wrote the words to the song?
Combination of help, but I wrote
That,
the words. Yes.
that was lovely. That was really lovely. Very special for 42 years. So wish you both the best always
Thank you.
from Casey and from me.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you. We
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And
All
and
right,
and
we've got
Mark,
an
Mark and
exciting.
Mark and Mark, you really are a kind soul. So go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And
That's funny.
um, so today is going to be, I mean, theoretically, it's the last in the series,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I don't think of it as the last. I think it is as the beginning. This one I'm so excited for, and I mean, this one is so amazing. I can't wait for Tony to share it. And then the German fairy tale. Oh my
Uh,
goodness, this thing is going to be like,
I think you want to do the German more than you want to do the American. So
like
so
I don't know. I,
anyway.
I do have a lot of questions. Go for it, Tony.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So, we are concluding on the 30 principles of from Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And one thing that as I look back on this, and again, I've shared the book with thousands of people, and when I was working, I shared it with across all the managers, directors, everyone that was in a leadership role, because these last ones are about leadership. Um, and unless you really, you know, buy the book, get the book, and then read what Carnegie says. And there's a more current book on this, that was put out many years after the original one. And I think his daughter actually wrote the new one or put the edited version together. So, but there's a lot of repetition. Okay, and I'm a believer that sometimes repetition is the mother of learning. And it's great that the principles are all connected because we now get to focus on putting them into action. So unless you could read it, it's like anything else. You could read it and you could sit there and hear, I read another book and put it on the side. But unless you're willing to take some time to really, really, really embrace them and then put them into practice, you're never really going to learn the benefit. And sometimes, they don't work, they don't always work. And they don't always work together. But they do send a message. And, the message really is don't forget the person while you're connecting the behavior. I'll say it again. Don't forget about the person, especially in this leadership section, while you're correcting the behavior. Okay. Not everybody's going to be perfect. And not always everybody's going to have the answers to everything, And so these last nine principles, I think I've listed them out in the podcast notes, but begin with praise and honest appreciation. We should all start with that. I mean, thank people for what they do. Call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. Again, Marky, when you get to the German section, you could highlight that one. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. So I think this is important because, like, especially when you're starting out, you don't always. It takes time to really get going as a professional, and I think in the public accounting, and you sent a note out about accountants this past week, I think, and I responded to that. You know, not everybody thinks like an accountant when they come out of school. They know the theory side of things, but it's actually the application that changes how good or how intelligent people are in terms of accounting. And it's really about the strategy. It's really about helping companies to look at strategy a little differently. And if you could really put a new strategy in that makes the company more successful, and primarily when you're looking at companies, looking at CEOs and leaders of the business, and especially big business. When I dealt with all the Fortune 100 companies, and I've traveled around the globe in 30 different countries and buying and selling companies. So, it's really looking at the strategy and identifying the risks. So, um, and you're not, and I wasn't perfect when I started. I mean, I made some mistakes, and I think it's important that you recognize your mistakes and you can share your mistakes because then there's always something that you did good and better as you went forward. And the other thing is ask questions instead of giving direct orders. So here's one for you. I always live by smart people ask a lot of questions. Okay. And if you're willing and if you're willing to be curious and learn, then you're willing to follow this one principle. And let the other person save face. Sometimes that's hard to do, and I know we'll hear about that one in the German section too. So it is hard. Sometimes it's hard because, and there was, giving credit. You want to give credit, but sometimes people do make mistakes, and again, it's how you do it. And if you're the leader, though, you got to take responsibility for sometimes for people's mistakes, because you're either not guiding them the right way, and they're not, for whatever reason, they didn't execute on what you wanted, and I think that's important. Um, Praise the slightest improvement and every improvement. And the 1 Minute Manager is a book that I read a long time ago too. It's about, just 1 minute of praise and then 1 minute of when somebody doesn't do something right either. So, but that praise, that 1 minute of praise, they'll walk away, go home and think about that for a long time. And because you've given them something that a lot of people don't give, which is praise. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. So this is where you put them out there and you gratify them and put people on a, not on a pedestal because we're in a workplace, but you really want to give them the opportunity to live up to a good reputation. Use encouragement and make the fault seem easy to correct. And then make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. Okay, which is not always easy, especially so there's a couple of thoughts in here too, and I want to really draw this home because I work with kids a lot. So you got to bring it home. When you look at children, it's how we treat them and deal with them, and I share this week we gave a grant out to a wonderful little boy, 12 years old, going on 12. And I just appreciate him because he actually he sat with us the longest time and he took and you could see he was getting edgy at the end because we were going to get into the agreements and stuff. So, but you folks will appreciate this, I think. Um, he had lost his father. His father was killed in a bad accident. He was a police officer. So, um, grandfather grandfather and grandmother decided to adopt this little guy, and they've had him for about 3-4 years. And so, grandfather reached out to me to get help for his son because he's worried about his grandson. And you could see some of the impulsive stuff and he read Anthony's story, and that's how we lost our son because of making a bad decision. So it really touched us, but really a sweet kid, and you really and his grandfather was really worried about him going to school, starting out a new school, going into middle school, and he has what's called an IEP, an individual education plan for the child. And it worked really well at the elementary school because there was a wonderful clinical therapist who took an interest in this little boy. So this is about taking an interest in someone, and we got to take an interest in kids. They're going to be the future for us. And I tell you, some of these kids that have ADHD will become the leaders of tomorrow, and we really have to build them. And and they all have their own struggles. Like you know. I have my struggles too with some things around ADHD and sometimes like if you came and looked at this office, you'd say Tony's procrastinating. So my wife has to come in and actually start fixing the papers and putting things together to write me because I'm running all day and I'm talking to families, I'm doing doing meetings and trying to raise some funds and I don't always get the papers are there, they're in the folder, but the folders aren't labeled. So she's the wonderful assistant that comes in and does all the cleanup for me. So sometimes you need that, but we all have our challenges. So and it's not asking if a child loses focus, it's not saying why can't you get this, but it's say I know you could do better. Let me help you. Let's work together on something, and it's working together as a team, and that's what I think kids are great communicators, and if you sit and talk with them, they'll tell you what's going on in their life. And you got to build some trust there, obviously. But, that's why don't forget the person while you're correcting the behavior. That's the difference. And that's really true kindness. And that's what I think Carnegie's was trying to teach us with these 30 principles, you know. And they run through for all of this. So, in closing, it's really how we treat people. It's how you treat people every day. Um, and I always try to have a smile on my face. Always try to wish people well. So as I close out, I got to read this little thing to you that this and Anthony and I were in one, and I'm sure you have them there, country buffet. You pull into and there's a huge buffet, right? You can't eat all the food, but you sometimes you try. So we'd go to church on Sundays, and church was always special, and outside the church in Catholic church, there's the Blessed Mother, and we'd always go. My mom had shared with the kids a little prayer, and when Anthony passed, we got a lot of donations up, and we were able to put a plaque next to the Blessed Mother because we'd always go over and say the prayer, But as we were in this country buffet, I'm looking at on the wall they have all of these sayings and stuff, and I just want to read this to you guys so I can send you the notes to it because I think it's really cool. It's about living life. Okay, living life is the name of the theme here. It says, "Life is not a race, but indeed a journey. Be honest, work hard, be choosy, say thank you, say I love you, and great job to someone each day. Go to church, take time for prayer. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh. Let your handshake mean more than pen and paper. Love your life and what you've been given. It's not accidental. Search for your purpose and do it as you best can. Dreaming does matter. It allows you to become that which you aspire to be. Laugh often, which we don't often do enough of laughing. Appreciate the little things in life and enjoy them. Some of the best things really are free. Don't worry. Don't worry. Less wrinkles are more becoming. Forgive. It frees the soul. Take time for yourself. Plan for longevity. Recognize the special people you've been blessed to know. Live for today. Enjoy the moment." Pretty cool. So I just want to close with that because it says a message that, live life, and it's how you live life. And Carnegie was about living life to the fullest and really about how you treat people. So when you treat them with kindness, it's going to come back to you. And I think it's really powerful. So again, wish everybody the best. Be the reason someone feels seen. Be the reason someone feels heard. Be the reason someone believes they can become better. And let's keep moving forward with kindness. So now I'll turn it over to Mark. We got to end this one. We turn it over to you with the German segment.
Before we go into the German segment, Jonathan wrote the song 6 years before he died. And he wrote it for a woman that he knew, and about a story that she shared with him about her dad. So it's in honor of her and her dad. And so he was 24 years old when he wrote the song.
God bless him.
And on his site, which Katrina can go ahead and make sure that it's linked to it, there's actually an interview with her after he died, the story behind the music, which is just really cool, very special. So it talks about her dad and the what inspired it and everything. And so she had been looking for an artist to sing the song for 6 years. Month before he died, she called him and she called me, and she said, "We found the artist." And and he never got to hear his song. And so, when the hard times come, they can be the final blow. Somebody lets you down, or you have to let them go. You stop and you think, why did this happen to me? Throw your hands up and pray the pain goes away. And those words come to mind that you heard so long ago when you told someone about the pain. They said, there's something you should know. It's not about you. It's about the lives that you change, the time that you spend, and the difference you make. May feel the pain, but live a life full of love. If you can change a life forever, then that's more than enough. Oh, that's something to be proud of. And so, he wrote the song,
Beautiful.
and and it's just weird. I mean, it's just weird that he wrote it 6 years before he died.
Yeah.
And that's him there in the picture. And the song's just, it's an amazing song. And
Yeah.
and so it's really cool. It's really, really cool. And so, Tony, this has been fun. I look forward to a lot of them. I'll go into German fairy tale here in a moment. But,
Yeah, that was touching. Very nice.
So it's interesting. It's just, yeah, the whole thing. It's really cool. Appreciate the time. Thanks for this here, and look forward to many more. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.